Okay everyone, it's Tuesday the 31st of July. I am in a Heroes of the Storm stream right now, just starting to play some Hero League. The first thing I'm gonna do is look at the Warcraft 3 PTR. It just has an update 2 hours ago, as you can see over there. I'm gonna be sending that to YouTube, so if you're watching this on YouTube, there we go. Wanted to get that out as fast as possible. After that, we're gonna show Logan on webcam, probably give him some pets, give him some treats, what have you. And after that, we are going to look at the Sylvanas new cinematic short by Blizzard World of Warcraft team. Warbringer Sylvanas just came out, super cool. And then we're gonna play some Hero League. Alright, so if you're all ready, let's start to begin here. Let's begin to start, let's commence with our beginning. And start commencing. Greetings Raiders, Tinkerers, Harbingers and Wardens. Based on gameplay analysis and feedback, we've got some updates to balance for the PTR. Thanks for doing your part in this grand adventure. First of all, a preface here. PTR is 130. Live is 129. 130 has been around for a few weeks. You can play it on the PTR server with a lot of lag, but it's been nice. We've enjoyed it. I recently reverted back to 129, which doesn't have the new Shaman buffs, the Taunt totem changes, and so on and so forth. This is an update from 130 to 130. It's still on the PTR. It doesn't mean it's live yet. We still don't know when 130 is going live. This is an update to PTR, which is still the test version. Hope that's clear. Hope I didn't nauseatingly over-explain that to you. Now, let's move on. Fixed an issue with a build command where other actions queued would no longer purchase the command queue. I think what that means is that workers after building buildings no longer did your additional commands. You couldn't make a farm and then go to the woods. The glaive thrower damage buff is now also applied to Vorpal Blades upgrade. Nice, I didn't realize it wasn't. The cheaper Necropolis made these two buildings more expensive because they were the halls and the Black Citadel cost minus Necropolis. So although you could make new cheaper Necropolises maintenance of that made these two more expensive, which was an unintended nerf, and they have now been downscaled back to what they were. Defend consistently reflects damage from piercing attacks again. See appendix. We'll see about that later. Logan, what are you doing? The weirdest sounds ever, as he was licking his own underbelly. Okay. To help visualize and solve mouse cursor lag, we have added OS cursor to registry that draws the operating system arrow cursor, see appendix. Okay, so myself and many others have reported some lag in Warcraft 3 with the cursor, and apparently we can use this to pinpoint, to pinpoint what might be an issue. So I'm not going to test it out right now, but this is interesting to see if maybe that can help. Some changes. For mounting, what I felt like Stormbolt was fine, and I felt Thunderclap was too strong, either in its effect or damage or radius. They're gonna go with a small blanket nerf on both Bolt and Thunderclap. 5 damage, 10 damage, 15 damage. And here's 10 and 15 damage. Overall, I think it's fair to nerf Thunderclap, but I don't feel like Stormbolt needed to be nerfed. It is small enough not to be huge, but it still matters. I don't 100% agree with this. I agree with this. I think it's not enough, but I think this is too much. So overall, it balances out. Would have done it slightly different, but I don't think it's a huge disaster. Farsight. Cooldown for all levels is now 30 seconds. So instead of tiny cooldown on the last level and a big cooldown on the first level with the tiny radius, that was that made Farsight level 1 and almost useless. 2 was pretty good, but not good enough. 3 was suddenly super broken strong. But now it looks like the level 1 radius is bigger. The cooldown is shorter, which actually makes it probably useful. So this is pretty interesting. for some kind of macro plays to go with an early Farsight. It also means that level 3 is worse. I think the cooldown was maybe 15. Don't quote me on that. No, in fact, quote me on that and correct me if I'm wrong. But Farsight 3 might be a little worse because of now longer cooldown. Overall, I think it's good changes. I'm not sure if that will make Farsight a competitive choice yet, as both Wolves and Chain Lightning are pretty useful. Pit Lord base stats. Okay, increased starting agility. Thank you for the sub, Baba Mods. Love you too. Increased starting agility from 14 to 15. That's interesting. Quicker attack speed, it means, and more armor. Just one stat. It's not a lot. But when you think of Pit Lord's kit, you know, first of all, Pit Lord is a bad first pick hero, not great second pick, pretty okay third pick. But despite being pretty good at third pick, he still doesn't see play as a third pick. In the past, sometimes he did, but barely. So he is due to some buffs. So any buffs, I'm enthused about any buffs. And I like this one because he is a hero that, being melee, will take a lot of damage. And the extra armor will help with that. It empowers the effectiveness of his cleaving attack because he attacks faster and can have more staying power. And Howl of Terror is a spell that you need to cast from within the middle of the opponent's army. And therefore you also need that survivability. And it looks like they buffed cleaving attack as well. Bigger radius by 25%. And 10% bonus damage per level on the auto attack. So now we can see maybe like some Pit Lord buffing tactics. Give him gloves, claws, some more circlets. Cool buffs. He's going to be that big monster that can stand in the middle of the enemy team and just wreak havoc like you really would expect a Pit Lord to be. And since he sees a lot of play in requests that people make to me on Fun Day Friday and Fun Day Sunday, that's pretty cool. The Warcraft 3 balance team, it's over, Todd. I've got the high ground. Todd, I hate you. I don't understand the joke. I don't understand the joke. Thank you, though. Goblin Tinker, cluster rockets, increase base damage, but just a little bit. And this one as well. So still factory probably better than rockets, so they're trying to give rockets a little bit more value. I don't know if it's enough, but it's in the right direction. That's huge. Wow. That's a straight up a 10% increase in attack speed for Riflemen. And I think that's important because human, despite destroyer nerfs, human can suffer against undead and against elf, bears, destroyers, aboms, nukes. Their health didn't get increased. Yes, a decreased attack cooldown means an increase in attack speed. Huh? We're smart. So that's a pretty big buff. And that means that tier 2 timings will be more effective for human, but also Riflemen may remain more useful during the course of the game. Better against wyverns, destroyers, things that can give human quite a bit of trouble. So pretty cool to see. Maybe Riflemen will become more stable once again. The mortar upgrade will now be applied to cannon towers. Very likely to be an unimpactful change because no one ever makes cannon towers. But maybe now you will, because cannon towers can actually miss fairly easily. They do a lot of damage, they take a long time to produce, they're very costly, they are fortified, big range. They're expensive and they're good, but only if people stand still. Even against dryads, the primary use you want to use cannon towers against, they weren't good enough because it was too easy to dodge the shots. Frag shards gives a larger area of damage that makes it impossible to dodge, even with perfect stutter step. So I think if you're facing a lot of dryads, maybe even some bears, cannon shards could be cannon shards, I said. Frag shards cannons. Defend damage reduction increased. Okay, so most players that play Warcraft 3, they'll have seen the recent maths as Defend got 2 changes. It got a nerf and it had a bug fix. Altogether, it meant that Defend was 80% less effective than before. And that was a bit too much, so Defend wasn't worth it anymore on PTR 130. Now, A little bit more reflection again. Reflection damage, more damage rebuff as well. So defend is probably useful once again. This is also useful against Necromancers, yes. But also, and this should be noted, Frag Shards does bonus damage on medium armor. Normally, cannon and siege damage doesn't do good damage on medium. It is actually reduced. But Frag Shards makes it good against medium, which means Raiders, Crypt Fiends, Archers, which are normally not easily dealt with by any kind of towers. But now Cannon Tower might just be a great way to hold off some Crypt Fiends with Frag Shards. Interesting. Cannon Sharks, I like that. Very fearsome. Frozen Sith Forum. And then Barrage, which is Steam Tank's anti-air attack. Increased base damage. So they're following suit here on the flying machine bonus damage against air. Giving human more ways to deal with air effectively. I'm not sure if I'm scared for this. At the same time, though, Steam Tank did get a supply increase, 4 to 3, from 3 to 4, so that's a nerf. That does seem pretty scary, though. 2 bonus damage might just be a little bit too good against Wyverns. But then again, Orc can also switch out of Wyverns back to Raiders to counter tanks with siege damage Raiders. So, anyway, I think this could mean Knight Steam Tank could be quite good against Orc. Maybe. Knight Breaker Steam Tank. This is not HOTS, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just doing a quick Warcraft 3 PTR review before jumping into HOTS. Their anti-air is it's pretty bad, but when you have enough tanks, Grantobot, their anti-air is really strong. Plus, they're impossible to take down by Wyverns. Whoa! 5 gold more, but 100 bonus range! So Headhunters in 130 already has 25 bonus health, but that wasn't good enough to make them playable, I don't think. At least from my testing, Headhunters were still pretty bad, especially against heroes. They get hunted, their range was too short, or their collision too big. I didn't really know what should be done with that, but it looks like they're gonna try out this. 5 bonus gold, but 100 bonus range, which is a really big deal. So, we have to see if maybe Headhunter Caster, or maybe Grunt Headhunter, Grunt Raider Kodo Headhunter, if these strategies can be more viable than before. This could also be really exciting to see if Headhunters can be used against human casters, or against Night Elf Druids of the Talon to counter them, because this bonus range makes it way easier to finally counter these talents without getting body blocked and zoned out by heroes. Very excited to try this out coming Friday on August the 3rd. Tune into my stream on August 3rd on Fun Day Friday. We're going to be playing the 130 updated version, which is this one. I want to try out the Riflemen. I want to try out Cannon Tower, Frag Shard, Headhunters, maybe Tinker, the new Farsight, the new Pit Lord. Anyway, we go on. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Shaman as well. Mana cost decrease of Bloodlust by 5. And they get bonus mana regeneration as well. And Witch Doctors also get bonus mana regen. That's great. Shamans always go out of mana so fast. And once again to the Heroes fans that are watching right now, I am going to play Heroes. I'm just doing a quick Warcraft 3 patch review, and then we'll go to HOTS. Thanks for your patience. This is exciting. Keep in mind that the Walker is no longer on the Spirit Lodge. So these two casters, they didn't really have a lot of place in the meta anymore. And I don't know if this is enough to actually justify going Lodge often or at all, but it's certainly helpful. And these units have never been OP since Reign of Chaos, so it's not risky either giving them buffs. The Lodge gets a little cheaper, which I think is fair. There's no longer a Walker there. This is a great change, but I'm not sure if it's enough of a nerf. Apparently there's a chance of 35% to purge. I feel like Orb of Lightning is the best orb in the game. Some people feel like it's Orb of Corruption, which did get a small nerf as well, -1 armor off. Orb of Venom is fantastic as well, a lot of damage. And they are all strong in their own right. but the feeling of getting like purged and locked down over and over by a blade with orb was a little bit too much. This is a great change. I'm not sure it's enough. I think it would have been fair to try 20 to 25%, but I guess it's small enough not to make it useless. Anyway, I think it could have been a bit more, but it's the right direction. And snare. Yeah, and snare has very little counterplay. You can basically banish it with Blood Mage as human. You can burrow with Crypt Fiend, but after that you're already kind of out of options for the most part. You can dodge it with Druid of the Claw transformation as well as Druid of the Talon transformation. But every other unit that gets ensnared, they pretty much have to tough it out and wait it out. And so Raiders, you know, they're a really big part of the crowd control effects of Orc. These two are the main one. It's basically Ensnare, Orb of Lightning, and Shaman Purge. Shaman got buffed, but the other two CC gets nerfed. And that could be a problem for Orcs' ability to lock someone down and kill them, because they are very heavy melee. At the same time, though, they also have Speed Scroll, so that's pretty good chase to take someone down as well. Ensnare nerf, I think it's fair, and let's evaluate how much. The duration is 2 seconds less, but the cooldown is also 1 second less. So before you had 4 seconds of downtime between ensnares of a singular raider. Now it's 5 seconds of downtime, so that's a 1 second buff. And also it's a shorter duration, which is a 2 second nerf. I mean, it's a 1 second nerf and a 2 second nerf, respectively. Ensnare got buffed, not nerfed, says Bambi on Fire. Well, I disagree, but you can feel that way. It got buffed against heroes. That's true. Against heroes it's buffed, just a bit. But against units it's nerfed, 1 and 2 seconds respectively. Reinforced defenses. Reduced from 200 to 175 lumber. And increased gold cost from 50 to 75. So it's a little bit more gold heavy, a little bit less lumber heavy. It's weird. Wasn't it 50/150 already? So maybe they had some kind of internal changes where it was back to the original, or they calculated differently. I'm not sure what. There were some concerns about tier 2 reinforced defenses. I'm not one that is as concerned about it because it comes out so late. It doesn't really protect the burrow from any of the standard meta timings that attacks burrows. So they changed the cost around a bit. I'm kind of neutral about it. I'm a little bit worried about reinforced defenses at the lower levels, but take it from me at pro level of any matchup besides Orc versus Undead, reinforced defenses at tier 2 doesn't really upend the meta too much. So it is what it is. Pulverize will now require Warmail. That's interesting. So Torrent Totem... Does Torrent Totem not require Warmail? Did they remove... Wait a second. Maybe there's a little mistake here. So either this is weird or Totem no longer requires Warmail. Because this one requires it. Or maybe it was like you needed to build a Warmail. You could then make the Totem. But if the Warmill then died, you could still upgrade Pulverize. But now you can no longer. Which is kind of a fringe situation, but maybe that's what it hints at. OP Island says they removed Warmill as a requirement for the Totem. Maybe I missed that. There are a lot of like different patches here. But okay, fine. Let's move on. Spiked Barricades level 2 and 3, a lot cheaper. They were vastly overpriced. I mean, we're talking about California residential price inflation here. Except it wasn't very wanted, unlike living in California. A lot cheaper. The thing is, though, why do you ever get spikes at level 2, you know, at tier 2 and tier 3? When it's basically best against footmen, ghouls, and militia. But with the price like this, it might just be cost effective to get it anyway. Where it might even be used against heroes or abominations or bears. Maybe I go upgrade it against bears level, you know, against bears. Or against abominations or heroes. I don't know. Interesting. Let's try it out for fun, if anything. Ah, Necromancer's +2 auto attack damage. I think that's fair. Despite all the buffs, Necromancers did too little damage. I mean, you needed 3 shots from a Necromancer to kill a sheep with 15 health. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, a sheep. We're talking meh. So bad, meh. But +2 damage, I think that's fair. Are Necros OP now? Maybe. I, for one, bow to our Necromancer dictator. And if they are, they just changed it again, right? But let's try it out. Okay, so Skeletal costs 25.75 and the 75.25 actually, and it looks like they added that exactly to Skeletal Mastery, combining them. So you only need 1 upgrade, which means total shorter research time. But that makes for quite an expensive and unseparatable 2 upgrades. Book. This was already the case, but they hadn't put it in the list yet. 3 each. Okay. Yeah. This was already the case, they just didn't list it yet. Huntress base damage up 1 damage. Wow, even more Huntress buffs? Really? I'm not sure that was required. Keeper Mass Hunt still pretty damn good already. And this kind of has a threat of ruining 2v2 or even 3v3. Mass Hunts is very good there already. They got all these buffs. They have Sentinels now. You can mass them. They have more damage. I think Night Elf, honestly, the way I see it right now, the Fountain buffs, the Bear nerfs, the Talon nerfs, and the Huntress buffs, I feel like it's meta now maybe to always open with 1 H4 Huntresses, maybe 2 H4 Huntresses. For 1-1, it has a chance of completely changing Night Elf meta, unlike almost any other race has been changed, which I think is fine. It's not great, but I think it's fine. But for 2v2 and above, I'm a little bit concerned that this is too much. So I would say this is respectfully not in the right direction maybe. But at the same time, Sentinel is no longer infinite. It's 3 minutes now instead of infinite. So that's a nerf. Taunt now activates a second time after 3 seconds. But the cooldown has gone up for 1. Ah. So for the price of 1 action on Mountain Giant, the opponent has to do 2 actions. This was so needed. This makes it better against good players, and obviously better against weak players. And you win the action wars, the APM wars. Very interesting. I hope it's visually well shown. So you press Taunt, everything is forced to attack the Mountain Giant, and then again. Interesting. And snare on neutrals is also nerfed. Cannibalize more health per second, but shorter duration. Huh. Shrug. Boots 2. And some map changes. Okay. I hope they take away at least half the sheeps there. Oh, red dragons replaced with granite golems. So you can no longer use the bug to pull the red dragon. I thought maybe they can just fix the AI of the Dragon 10 so it doesn't attack bases anymore with Crypt Fiend abuse and Zeppelin abuse. Maybe they can just change the AI, but maybe this is easier. So now it's just granite golems. Okay, fine. That definitely changed what you can creep it with. You can no longer use mass gargs to creep it as easily. Too bad. So defend. Okay, this is a bit too much maths for me to dig into now, but and then this is how to just read this when you have mouse lag, so you can follow some info and maybe you can get some nice value out of that. I'm definitely gonna try this because I still feel a bit of mouse lag myself as well. Okay, that was the Warcraft PTR updated patch notes, which have gone live 3 hours ago on PTR. It's not yet live on main server, that's still 129. Thanks for waiting, HOTS fans, and thanks for watching, Warcraft fans, and hi YouTube.